Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Congregation of the South Jersey Shore, a welcoming and inclusive faith community. Thank you for joining us. We who bring a teaching of hope, we who bring a saving message, who welcome all in our doors, the joyful, the heartbroken, atheists and Christians, Muslims and Jews, straight and gay, lesbian, bisexual, queer, transgender, all who are searching, seeking, looking for more meaning, more service, and more love. All of us gathered here together. My name is Deb Dagavarian, and I'm your worship associate this morning. I'm a member of this congregation and currently serve on the worship committee, the membership committee, and a few other committees too. Our worship service today is led by the members of the UUCSJS Book Club. Video of the service will be available on our website and Facebook page later today. If you care to tweet during today's service, you can use the hashtag UUCSJS. If you are hard of hearing, closed captioning of the whole service is available on the YouTube recording that will be posted this afternoon. If you are joining from a computer or smartphone, you are encouraged to type any joys or concerns in the chat box area on your screen. In most platforms, it can be accessed by a chat icon at either the top or the bottom of the page. And the chat section will open where you can leave a comment and see what others have said. Please remember that this video will be on the internet, so please do not share information best kept private. Welcome to worship. Welcome into this place of healing. Welcome into this place of challenge and growth. Welcome into this place of imperfection and aspiration. You are whole, you are holy, you are wholly loved. Our chalice lighting words this week are "We Are Longing" by Starhawk. Somewhere a circle of hands will open to receive us. Eyes will light up as we enter. Voices will celebrate with us whenever we come into our own power. A circle of healing, a circle of friends, someplace where we can be free. Please join in singing along to our gathering hymn, "For All That Is Our Life."
For all that is our life, we sing our thanks and praise. For all life is a gift, which we are called to use to build the common good and make our own days glad. For needs which others serve, for services we give, for work and its rewards, for hours of rest and love, we come with praise and thanks. For all that is our life. For sorrow we must bear, for failures, pain, and loss, for each new thing we learn, for fearful hours that pass, we come with praise and thanks. For all that is our life. For all that is our life, we sing our thanks and praise. For all life is a gift, which we are called to use to build the common good and make our own days glad.
During this next musical interlude, we invite you to write your joys and sorrows in the chat portion of your Zoom screen. The icon will either be on the top or bottom of your screen and will allow you to enter text into the panel where others can see it. At the end of the musical interlude, I will read what you would share with the congregation gathered here today. Please remember that a recording of today's service will be available on the internet. So as a reminder, please do not share things that ought not to be posted on the internet for eternity. Each week we gather in this space with things that weigh upon our hearts and minds. Some bring us joy we wish to share with others, and some bring us sorrow that weigh heavy upon our hearts. I will now read what joys and sorrows you would share with this community. Marianne writes, grateful to be on this amazing planet for 67 years. Yay, Marianne, happy birthday. Diane Dreby says, happy birthday, Marianne. From Melissa, joy that Rockefeller the saw-whet owl is doing well following his accidental journey to New York on the Plaza Christmas tree. This owl survivor is expected to be released today back into the wild. And if you haven't seen him, go online and look him up. He's a really cute little owl, little guy with big eyes. Judy Pereira says, happy birthday, dear Marianne. You have the day off, I see. May it be a happy one. Sheila also says, happy birthday. This is probably Kit, even though it says glad, but it says glad to be back in Texas with my grandchildren. Concerned that I may have been exposed while traveling here. Oh boy. Tracy Staub says, I'm so grateful for everyone who worked to keep this congregation going during this time that can be so isolating. Thank you for keeping us connected. Thanks, Tracy. Steve McGahee wrote, Yvette finished her grant proposal after many hours. Tara was elected to 4th grade student council. Yay, Tara. And yay, Yvette. Ash has a possible job opportunity. Wow, that's really great for the whole family. Judy Pereira says, I'm pleased to see Leo, Kate, and Matt with us today. Let's see. Kenneth Marino says, happy birthday, Marianne. Ceci Brandt says, I'm grateful to all of you for continuing services throughout the pandemic. I think many of us are. And Tracy says, Yvette, congratulations. May your organization get the money that you need. Tara, you're walking in your mommy's shoes. And I second that whole thing. Okay. Let us be in the spirit of prayer. We pray for those who are apart from us, whether by distance, time, or conflict unresolved. We pray for those who thirst, whether for water, dignity, or justice. We pray for our small, blue, fragile planet. Amen.
When our heart is in a holy place, when our heart is in a holy place, we are blessed with love and amazing grace. When our heart is in a holy place, when we trust the wisdom in each of us, every color, every creed and kind, and we see our faces in each other's eyes, then our heart is in a holy place. When our heart is in a holy place, when our heart is in a holy place, we are blessed with love and amazing grace. When our heart is in a holy place, when we tell our story from deep inside, and we listen with a loving mind, and place, when our heart is in a holy place. We are blessed with love and amazing grace, when our heart is in a holy place. When we share the silence of sacred space, and the God of our heart stirs within, and we feel the power of each other's faith, then our heart is in a holy place. When our heart is in a holy place, when our heart is in a holy place, we are blessed with love and amazing grace, when our heart is in a holy place, when our heart is in a holy place.
We now take a moment to give and receive the morning offering. That looks and feels a little different when we are separated by distance. And instead of placing a check or cash in the basket, there are different ways to exercise your generosity practice. I've placed the address and a link to our donation site, webpage, the donation button on our webpage that you can use to make a donation. You can send a check to our P.O. box as well. Each Unitarian Universalist congregation is self-supporting, and 80% of the funds to support all that we do comes from the contributions of our members and friends. Thank you to all of you who faithfully send in your donations. A gift at any level is appreciated, and no matter how those gifts are offered, they are always most gratefully received. Today, John Brilla, our UUC SJS treasurer, will suggest another way that you can support our community. John?
Thank you, Karen. Many of you may have read the letter from Kip Morleau, our board president, and myself, about this year's auction. Due to the current circumstances, we're not going to be able to run the auction in its normal format. That being said, the auction is a significant part of our operating budget every year. If you are able to support the auction at the same amount you did last year, that would be very helpful towards our congregation's budget. You might also be able to receive the item or service that you received last year if the person who provided it is willing to supply it. For example, last year I did yard work for Tony and Marty as a part of my auction item, and I'm willing to do that again if they are willing to support the auction again this year. If you are able to support the auction, when you mail your check, please indicate that it is for the auction so we can properly account for it. Any support you can provide to the auction is most gratefully received.
From you I receive, to you I give. Together we share, and from this we live.
Our reading today is by James Baldwin. You think your pain and your heartbreak are unprecedented in the history of the world. But then you read, it was books that taught me the things that tormented me most were the very things that connected me with all the people who were alive who had ever been alive.
And
Thank
now
you.
Debbie is going to introduce the service.
This is a special service for some of us because we're speaking about books that really meant something to us. We'll hear Diane Dreby speak about The Bluest Eye by Toni Morrison. We'll hear Terry Ballas speak about James McBride's new book, Deacon King Kong. We'll hear Judy Pereira speak about Mary Oliver's Upstream. And we'll hear about Denise O'Mara speak about The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle. And I'll be speaking about Breathe, A Letter to My Sons by Imani Perry. Breathe, A Letter to My Sons by Imani Perry is the Unitarian Universalist Common Read for 2020-2021. It is a brief book, but packs a punch, taking on race and racism, gender, and what it takes to live a meaningful life. It is a beautifully written book, so much so that I wanted to love it, but I didn't. I wanted to learn from it, but I did not. Still, there were parts that were meaningful to me, such as where she speaks of our racist society and her abiding love for her two Black sons. And I quote, "Feeling deep love and complete helplessness to protect the beloveds is a fact of Black life." In the first section of the book, titled Fear, Dr. Perry speaks about raising her two African-American sons in today's world. She is painfully aware how Black males are viewed in our society, how they can be misunderstood. She reflects on how Emmett Till's mother must have felt after Emmett was mutilated and murdered. Quote, "Personal tragedy became the public's grief, one of so many during the freedom movement. Emmett's horrifyingly abused face resonated. Yet and still he was her baby and not the onlookers. The same is true of the myriad who have followed. We witness private grief and feel it turn into our collective grief, but we must not snatch it up out of their loved ones' hearts and colonize it with our fears. Instead, we stand in the chorus of mourners." Dr. Perry reflects on her own journey growing up Black, never flinching in her honesty. "I never even felt that she was holding back at all." Here she writes of how Blacks are treated as inferior. "You do not have to taste the lead on your walls, breathe the environmental hazards of sick schools and buildings, pass through metal detectors, stand under the daily gaze of cops. And still the toxins constantly threaten to seep under your skin and explode your insides outward. Every day, drink in the stories and the knowledge that teach you to refuse the pernicious myth that you are inferior. I encourage all of you to read the book and come to your own conclusions. Remember, this book was selected as the UUA Common Read for this coming year."
Good morning. My name's Diane Dreby, and I'm here this morning to share my thoughts on Toni Morrison's 1970 debut novel, The Bluest Eye. Thanks to Betsy Seawright for selecting this for our book club discussion. It's the first Morrison book I've read, but it won't be the last. A February 2020 article in the New Yorker magazine pays homage to the 50th anniversary of The Bluest Eye, and I'd like to share a short excerpt from that article. Morrison's book cut a new path through the American literary landscape by placing young Black girls at the center of the story. When we meet Piccola, She is 11 years old, but already ancient with sorrow. Her only escape from the emotional abuse that her family and her classmates heap on her is to dream. And the dream is this, that someone, God perhaps, will grant her the gift of blue eyes. The kind of blue eyes Piccola has seen in pictures of the movie star Shirley Temple. The kind of blue eyes that she imagines lighting up the face of the girl on the wrapper of her favorite candies, Mary Jane's. Piccola feels, or the world has made her feel, that if she had blue eyes, she would at least be free. Free from her unforgivable blackness, from what her community labeled ugliness, long before she could look in a mirror and determine for herself who and what she was. Morrison leans on her experiences and those of the people around her to share with us what it is like to be young, poor, abused little black girl in 1941. Her main character, Piccola, is actually based off a girl Morrison knew, who felt betrayed by God because she was not granted the blue eyes she equated with beauty. In light of George Floyd, Black Lives Matter, and white supremacy running amok in 2020, I feel tasked with educating myself, learning to see the world through the eyes of a community that has been screaming for the privileged white to acknowledge and make amends for the systemic racism that Black Americans have endured for centuries. Toni Morrison has given me the gift of insight, sharing her experiences in a way that allows me to see the world of racism and poverty through the eyes of a child. While Piccola's life is difficult and sad, there are those in the story who challenge and rise above the barriers society has placed in their way. There is so much more to say about this book and Toni Morrison's life and legacy, but time constraints limit what I can share. My hope is that your interest is piqued and you'll be inspired to learn more. Interestingly, this book was challenged by many people in many school districts over the years to be banned from libraries and from school curriculum, which kind of speaks to our unwillingness frequently to listen to and learn from others. So I hope you found this helpful, and thanks for listening.
Hi everybody, good morning. My name is Terry Ballas, and the book that I'm going to talk about this morning is Deacon King Kong by James McBride. I'm going to start by reading the plot summary from the book Dust Jacket, just to kind of give you an idea of what the book's about. In September 1969, a fumbling, cranky old church deacon known as Sportcoat shuffles into the courtyard of the Cause Houses housing project in South Brooklyn, pulls a .38 from his pocket, and in front of everybody shoots the project's drug dealer at point-blank range. The reasons for this desperate burst of violence and the consequences that spring from it lie at the heart of Deacon King Kong. In Deacon King Kong, McBride brings to vivid life the people affected by the shooting, the victim, the African American and Latinx residents who witnessed it, the white neighbors, the local cops assigned to investigate, the members of the Five Ends Baptist Church where Sportcoat was deacon, the neighborhood's Italian mobsters, and Sportcoat himself. As the story deepens, it becomes clear that the lives of the characters, caught in the tumultuous swirl of 1960s New York, overlap in unexpected ways. When the truth does emerge, McBride shows us that not all secrets are meant to be hidden, that the best way to grow is to face change without fear, and that the seeds of love lie in hope and compassion. James McBride won a National Book Award for another work of his known as The Good Lord Bird. He's also an accomplished jazz musician, so he's a very interesting gentleman, and I enjoyed learning about him as I was doing more research for this book. So now I just want to tell you a little bit more about why this book resonated with me. First of all, the book is very, very funny. It's hilarious. The protagonist's name is Sportcoat, which I think is super funny, and the first chapter is titled Jesus is Cheese. Second, there are themes of benevolence, second chances, and the benefit of the doubt woven throughout this book. It's beautiful. Third, McBride says repeatedly in interviews about this book that he believes that persons of different races and socioeconomic levels are more alike than we're different. And he illustrates that in this book with an interracial love affair. And then last, the prose in this book is just beautiful. It's superbly written. It's a very enjoyable book. It's very sweet, and in addition to being funny, it has a warmth. So it sounds dark, but it's really not. I hope that you will have a chance to read Deacon King Kong, and that if you do, you will enjoy it as much as I did. Thanks.
Hi everyone, I'm Judy Pereira, and my remarks are about a book by poet Mary Oliver titled Upstream, Selected Essays. Upstream was published in 2016 when Oliver was 81. There's serendipity in my choice because I'm that age now. Most UUs know Mary Oliver, perhaps not so much for her essays, but her poetry, because she's the unofficial poet laureate of Unitarian Universalism. How many times have we been asked about our one wild and precious life, or told, you do not have to be good? Don't get me wrong, these are important matters. Some of us in the UU Book Club met outdoors in July, safely distanced, of course, to read Oliver's poetry. This meeting at the Open Air Pavilion in Port Republic was so nourishing that we decided to do the same thing again in August. I confess I've never read so much Mary Oliver before, and now it seems I just can't get enough. Upstream offers an episodic spiritual autobiography of the poet, as Maureen Corrigan observed on Fresh Air in 2016. Of the book's 19 essays, only one is a first, but collected, they shine anew and range from personal reminiscences to astute commentary on Whitman, Emerson, Poe, and Wordsworth, to playful anecdotes, to the minutely observed reflections on the natural world that are Oliver's trademarks. She instructs us, as in, you must not ever stop being whimsical, and tells good stories about foxes, turtles, fish, spiders, dogs, owls, a duck, a bear, and a very remarkable seagull. Oliver and partner Molly Malone Cook lived mostly in Provincetown for over 40 years, and she preferred not to travel far from, quote, my woods, my ponds, my sun-filled harbor. She published her first book of poems in 1963 at 28, and her last, Devotions, in 2017 at 82. She won the Pulitzer Prize in 1984 and many other awards. She died in 2019, alas. I will mention one favorite essay, Bird, and I'm not alone in loving it. After nursing a critically injured black-backed gull at home for many weeks, when the bird dies, Oliver writes, he was, of course, a piece of the sky. His eyes said so. This is not a fact. This is the other part of knowing something, when there is no proof, but neither is there any way toward disbelief. It goes on. As another poet said of her, and I concur, for this is perfect, Mary Oliver's poetry is fine and deep. It reads like a blessing. Her essays read the same way. Thank you.
Hi, last but not least, I'm Denise O'Mara, here to share with you a book that has provided me with more aha moments than any other book I've read. The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle is it. And it turns out that the now of the last trying months in this country has been the perfect time to read it for my third time. At least I can punctuate my political and pandemic woes with some solid, enlightening wisdom. Tolle takes thousands of years of teaching from Eastern texts and Western mystics, say Buddha and even Jesus, and pack them into a clean contemporary version. He has essentially said, let me make this easier for you. This book matters. It taught me how to conquer the seemingly impossible feats of eliminating suffering and cultivating peace. Tolle teaches that to shut down the brain noise of regrets from the past and worries for the future, we must focus on the present, which is really all we have. The past is gone, the future doesn't exist, only now in the present does. To quote Tolle, it's not so much that we use the mind wrongly, it's that it uses you. To identify yourself with your mind is the root cause of suffering. Ego is the part of the mind that stops happiness. The most common ego identifications have to do with our possessions, the work we do, social status, education, physical appearance, personal and family history, belief systems, and often also political, racial, religious, and other collective identifications. None of these is you. We can break our mind's false created self of the ego and leave it behind, employing mindfulness meditation techniques. To observe your thoughts without judgment, put them aside, then enter the inner peace of now. The now is the path to being, my inner own being, and with the ground of being universally. In closing, I want to say that if you, like I, are looking for an answer to the dilemmas of life and escape from the news cycle, take Tolle's practical and fresh advice. There is no intellectual answer. Thinking is not the core of who I am. Find enlightenment in being in the now. Thank you.
Our closing words today are by Groucho Marx. Outside of a dog, a book is man's best friend. Inside of a dog, it's too dark to read. Let's read the words now for extinguishing the chalice. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again.
Our postlude is a song by Amanda Udis Kessler. Check out Amanda's website, queersacredmusic.com. She provides congregations throughout the U.S. with free-to-use sheet music and quality recordings to share in online worship. For small congregations like ours, this is a tremendous gift. All of Amanda's songs are original and the lyrics are gender neutral, which we are grateful for. The slides that accompany the song were provided by our congregants.
All my life I will ever be grateful, grateful for the love that inspires me, grateful, grateful for the friends who enrich my days, for the wonder that draws my praise, for the breath that is life's own grace. I am grateful. Fear and loss may be guaranteed, still I'm grateful. I don't have all the things I need, still I'm grateful. Life lived well has its share of pain. Death will come to my door one day. Nonetheless, I will still remain grateful, grateful. In my joy, I am not alone when I'm grateful. You have joys that are all your own. You are grateful. So we join with our hearts as one, thankful for everything love has done, singing songs that have just begun. We are grateful. We are called in our gratitude when we're grateful to give birth to a world that's new, glad and grateful. Till the wounded have all been healed, till the weapons of war fall still, till each heart has a cause to feel grateful, 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 grateful.
We have some announcements this morning. Reverend Dawn is on study leave this week. They will be back in the office on December 2nd. If you would like to have a Thanksgiving meal delivered to you at home because you're not able to gather with family or friends this year, please get in touch with Teresa McReynolds to sign up. Families are invited to gather in the main room here on Zoom following coffee hour at 11:30 to view this week's episode of RE on TV together. Please take the opportunity to keep virtually connected. This week, we have, there'll be heartfulness meditation Monday, Wednesday, and Saturday, and Buddhist Sangha on Saturday. Go to our uucsjs.org calendar for more information. If you need to schedule a meeting or event, Please reach out to the admin at uucsjsadmin@gmail.com for use of the Zoom room or to be added to the calendar. We warmly welcome all of you who are visiting us today. Please stay and socialize in our online social time so that we can get to know each other better. Now, let us share in a moment of silent reflection to consider today's message and the meaning it has in our lives.